Shalom, shalom, everybody. This is Pastor and Evangelist Daniel John Lee. I pastor a Zoom room prayer group where we meet nightly on Zoom for praise and worship, prayer, and Bible study. And I'm an evangelist. I've been to 124 college campuses and universities across the nation. I am in the winter break right now, be getting ready to start my spring 2025 campus preaching semester here in just a couple of weeks. And so I'm making videos as they relate to biblical prophecy and current news events, trying to drum up donations. So you want to send donations, I got donation links below all my videos. I have a link to my PayPal, which is probably the easiest way to send a donation. I also have a Cash App, a Zelle that's linked to my firebrand4@gmail.com email address. I have a GoFundMe. These are 4 different ways that you can send donations via the internet very easily. And if you don't like to use the internet, I also have a new physical address that's run by one of my church elders, Brother Michael McKenzie down in Houston. So if you want to send a check or money order written out to Daniel, you can send it out to there as well. All right, so let's get right into the news. So this was a piece published just a couple of days ago by the Wall Street Journal. Israelis see chance to remake Middle East in war's wake. And what's really fascinating about this article, and I'll post it below the video so you guys can read it, they go into the minutia of basically Israel wanting to push for this peace with Saudi Arabia, with various other Muslim states in the Middle East, which is exactly what Trump has been talking about for the last year and a half on his social media platforms, where he's been saying, look, I want to take these Abrahamic Accords, I want to confirm them. I want to make them bigger. I want to add more nations into these Abrahamic Accords to establish a peace. And that's exactly what Israel is hoping to push for as well. And this article goes into that in detail. And of course, we know Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, talks about the 70th week of Daniel, the final 7 years that leads up to Christ's return to earth, where he will rule and reign. And that 7-year period in Daniel 9:27 begins when the man of sin, the Antichrist, confirms a covenant with many. That's exactly what my timeline is all about here. Again, don't get hung up on the dates so much. It's just a template depending on when Trump actually does this. But some point in the next 4 years, some September, October, in the next 4 years of his administration, he's going to actually sit down and make this covenant with many, the 7-year covenant. And this article goes into very much detail about how Israel sees that happening under Trump. So just more confirmation that we are barreling very, very quickly toward the final 7 years leading up to Christ's return. It'll happen in some September, October of either 2025, 2026, 2027, or 2028, one of those 4 years. Now, this article here, it's titled, Trump is surrounding himself with a tight-knit group of right-wing tech barons. President-elect Donald Trump has surrounded himself with a tight-knit group of wealthy tech barons whose ideas will help define his second term in the White House. 3 key allies, members of a group known as the PayPal Mafia, for their involvement in the money transfer company 2 decades ago, seems to be shaping policy and staffing decisions in Trump's incoming administration, and they are part of an expansive right-wing tech network that will accompany Trump back into power. The network is highly interconnected, sharing not only a political alliance, but also social ties, investment opportunities, anti-regulatory ideas, and geographic proximity in Austin, Texas, or Northern California. Some of their friendships and professional connections go back decades, and almost all the members of the network are men. Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk has been called the shadow president or first buddy, and he wants to take a hatchet to the federal budget at Trump's request as co-lead of the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency with biotech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. David Sachs, a tech investor and podcaster, will have the role of Trump's tech czar, advising him on artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency. Peter Thiel, a longtime Trump supporter, has given the incoming Trump administration a staffing pipeline filled with at least 10 of his former co-workers, employees, or investing partners, including Vice President-elect J.D. Vance. Of course, I've made videos about all 3 of these men, Elon Musk and his high-level satanic mother, May Musk, Elon Musk, who's developing the Neuralink, trying to work out the last few bugs in there. Elon Musk, who, of course, is a big backer of cryptocurrency. Elon Musk is a very high-level Satanist. If you don't understand this, then you're completely blind. I've provided many videos and proof for the connections that Elon Musk has. I mean, even for many, many years, his main profile on Twitter, and then when it became X, was him in this Baphomet costume right next to his high priestess satanic mother, May Musk, as they were at the Halloween Hookers Ball, which is a major hub of child sex trafficking that he was a part of. So that's Elon Musk. Of course, David Sachs, I've talked about him. He's had major ties to George Soros, right? And he's the guy who's going to be in charge, or basically the tech czar that's going to be advising this whole cryptocurrency nonsense. And I've talked about how I believe that, Trump is going to take down the Federal Reserve, the world bankers. He's going to replace it with a blockchain cryptocurrency that's literally going to be what the mark of the beast and the beast end time currency system is going to be built upon. And then Peter Thiel, who's a sodomite, but even more than a sodomite, which is bad enough, he had an interview back in, 2009, where he talked about drinking the blood of children and teenagers in order to keep himself youthful. I've shown that many times. And also, in more recent years, he's developed different programs like Palantir that specifically work with the government to harvest data. Okay, so Peter Thiel's anything but this so-called libertarian that he tries to make himself out to be. He's actually very, very far left and wanting to pry into the privacy of Americans than any libertarian should have any business doing, because he's a liar. He's not really a libertarian. He's actually very, very much of a leftist wanting to investigate the privacy of American lives, and he's proven that through his company Palantir. You just have to do a little digging on that to figure that out. J.D. Vance, of course, has been involved with a lot of gene therapy research, and it's no wonder that he's connected with Peter Thiel, who he claims is his mentor. So all of these guys forming this tech billionaire club, you think, oh, yeah, Trump's going to bring us freedom. No, you've just gone from the leftist tech billionaires to the now right-wing tech billionaires. And really, there's not even much of a difference between these two groups because, like I say, David Sachs, this guy has long history and ties to George Soros. So there's been this kind of civil war brewing within MAGA lately where Trump is vocally supporting Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy of this whole issue around H-1B visas. These are visas that are allowing Asian immigrants to come in, and they're usually highly skilled workers able to come in and take high-skilled jobs. Elon Musk and Ramaswamy are pushing this, and a lot of people in the MAGA movement, like Laura Loomer and others, are saying, no, we don't want this. These jobs should go to Americans, not to Asian immigrants. But Trump came out December 28th. He's saying President-elect Trump told the Post Saturday he supports immigration visas for highly skilled workers, appearing to side with Elon Musk in the roiling intra-MAGA debate on the issue. I've always liked the visas. I've always been in favor of the visas. That's why we have them, Trump said by phone, referring to the H-1B program, which permits companies to hire foreign workers in specialty occupations. I have many H-1B visas on my properties. I've been a believer in H-1B. I have used it many times. It's a great program, added Trump. But if you remember way back in 2016, this was a statement March 3rd, 2016, where Megyn Kelly had asked Trump about this, and he had a completely different stance back then. Said Megyn Kelly asked about highly skilled immigration. The H-1B program is neither highly skilled nor immigration. These are temporary foreign workers imported from abroad for the explicit purpose of substituting for American workers at lower pay. I remain totally committed to eliminating rampant, widespread H-1B abuse and ending outrageous practices such as those occurred at Disney in Florida when Americans were forced to train their foreign replacements. I will end forever the use of the H-1B as a cheap labor program and institute an absolute requirement to hire American workers first for every visa immigration program, no exception. So you see, he has almost an exact opposite position as he does now. And is it any wonder when he surrounded himself with these tech billionaires? And of course, I've shown on this unholy trifecta that I developed last summer that Trump is the titular head of the beast system here with Q and the New Apostolic Reformation, the Patriots, Jassara Nasara. And then over here you have the false prophet system, which is the Vance, Peter Thiel, cryptocurrency luciferase, and Elon Musk, who I believe Elon Musk is the titular head of the false prophet system. So yeah, the false prophet system that's going to cause everyone to worship the beast, Trump, of course, is going to change his position in order to fit and comport with Elon Musk, because the beast and the false prophet are going to be working together, right? So we shouldn't be surprised that Trump completely flipped on this position, just like he flipped on his positions regarding vaccines. You remember 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015 even, he was tweeting or even was on the debate stage saying how he was opposed to many vaccines, especially vaccines for small children. And of course, we saw in 2020 how he did a complete 180 on his position on vaccines when he pushed forward Operation Warp Speed. So Hal Turner came out with this: 72 hours until Russian gas shipments to Europe cease. This was published just today. Today is December 28, 2024, and there are now 72 hours remaining for natural gas supplies through Ukraine into Europe. Ukraine is halting transit of Russian gas as of January 1. With the coldest months, January and February, just ahead, Ukraine's decision to halt natural gas from Russia transiting through their country, European governments find themselves being held hostage by the Ukrainians. Ukraine wants and needs more military aid, weapons, and cash money to continue its futile effort to fight Russia on the battlefield. European governments are tapped out of weaponry and cash, having given everything they can and then some to Ukraine for the past 3 years. The Ukrainians are not interested. They demand more, or else the natural gas transit to Europe through Ukraine stops on January 1. An irresistible force is about to meet an immovable object. Europe cannot give what it does not have, and Ukraine cannot survive without more. So they're cutting off the gas transit in the hope of forcing Europe to do more. Most observers realize Ukraine will not only bring down itself, it will bring down Europe as well. Today, we also found out that Russia's Gazprom will cut off natural gas supply to Moldova because that country's natural gas company, Moldovagaz, isn't paying its debt. So 72 short hours from now, the gas pipelines from Russia to Europe will, for all intents and purposes, shut down. Of course, most European countries have reserves, some with very significant reserves, that will very likely get them through January and maybe even part of February. The weather will have a lot to say about that. The colder the weather, the more gas is needed for heating. One country that does not have significant reserves is Slovakia. That country's Prime Minister, Robert Fico, was in Moscow this week speaking with Russian President Putin about his dilemma. Fico made it clear that unless Ukraine allows natural gas from Russia to traverse Ukraine into Slovakia, it could cause another conflict. Many take that to mean a military conflict. So things in Europe are, no pun intended, heating up fast 72 hours from now. How it will develop and what will turn into seems to remain to be seen. So I thought it was interesting that he highlighted Slovakia, saying, look, if Ukraine follows through with this and halts this natural gas, there's going to be another conflict coming from now Slovakia. And that's really interesting because it reminds me of this video that I played a month and a half ago. This is a prophecy from a 9-year-old woman who lived way back in 1968. This young man reiterates the prophecy. I'll post a link to this video once again if you haven't seen it. It's only about 6 minutes long. But this woman had a very, very accurate prophecy that, again, she made back in 1968. She literally predicted that there was going to be peace for a time between the Eastern powers of Russia and the United States, which, of course, we saw happen at the end of Reagan's term and beginning of Bush Sr.'s term with the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union. But that would lead into sort of a period of peace where the Western world would be lulled into a false sense of security. She also talks about how eventually things are going to get more tense again between the East and the West, which of course we've seen in the last several years. And she said that there's going to be a trend throughout Europe and the Western nations of taking the poor and the downtrodden and getting them out of the country. You know, the illegal immigrants, getting them out of the country. And that when that happens, that will kick off World War III. Of course, we're seeing that. We've been seeing that happen for a while. And now with Trump coming in to his second term, we're seeing this begin to pick up steam again, not only in the United States, but also in Europe, where we're trying to kick out the poor, the destitute, not just people who are criminals, but even those who are seeking asylum here. they're going to be targeted in Trump's deportation program. And this lady talked about all this in this prophecy. But one thing she also talks about is she says that the war will actually begin in a very unlikely country that no one's really heard about. I thought, wow, wouldn't that be something if Slovakia is the spark that would cause World War III? Because that's not a really well-known country, but it's right in the midst of this whole Russian-Ukrainian ordeal. So anyway, this is a fascinating video, whether Slovakia turns out to be a fulfillment of that prophecy or not. Really interesting video about a woman gave this prophecy, a 90-year-old woman gave this prophecy way back in 1968. And if you listen to what she says, she describes how eventually the TV will display sex acts between men and women, which back in the 1960s, those were illegal to broadcast on TV. But she was saying these things were going to start infiltrating our media and entertainment. Of course, that's exactly what happened. So really, really interesting video to listen to, and I'll post this again below the video. Of course, if you've been hearing for the last week or couple weeks, Trump has been saying how he wants to take back the Panama Canal. He wants to take Greenland, which he mentioned this in his first term, and now he's been bringing it up again in recent days, how he wants to take over Greenland. He's been telling Trudeau how he wants Canada to become the 51st state. And he doesn't seem to be joking around about this stuff. And I was thinking, Trump targeting Greenland and Canada and the Panama Canal. Of course, he's, I believe he's the Antichrist, so he's going to be more and more into this imperial domination. But I think there's something even more to look at here. I was looking at this article from 2022, which talks about population distributions. And if you notice, it's divided into 10 sections, right? There's going to be 10 toes or 10 kings that rule and reign with the beast for 1 hour. Okay, and this is divided into 10 regions: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you notice Greenland is part of this region. And so with Trump suggesting that Canada become the 51st state, and I don't think he's joking. I mean, he's been saying, hey, if you become the 51st state, your taxes are going to suddenly drop by 60% and all these benefits. And if of course, he's targeting Greenland. Trump, I think, is trying to form these 10 regions, and Greenland would be a part of, Greenland and Canada for that matter, would be part of this North American region, making up the 10 regions that would eventually be under the Antichrist, at least for a time, for 1 hour, as the book of Revelation talks about. So I thought that was very, very interesting. We're seeing more and more of these things begin to coalesce as we're getting closer and closer to the 7-year tribulation. We're seeing Trump continue to prove more and more that he is the Antichrist. Remember, guys, one of the, I think, strongest verses that establishes Trump as being the Antichrist, other than the fact that he's associated with the lion, and of course we read in Revelation 13 that the Antichrist will have, the beast system will have the mouth of a lion, and there's no one on the political scene that's more associated with lions. But other than that, it's Daniel 11:21, where it talks about how he's going to be dishonored by many at first. He's not going to have the honor given to him. He's going to be made fun of and lampooned and laughed at and mocked at. But then through peace and flatteries, he's going to obtain the kingdom. And that verse so dramatically describes Trump's political journey from 2015 until now. All right, if you like what I'm doing, if you appreciate these videos, you appreciate these news videos as they relate to biblical prophecy, please don't forget to go right below my video and donate, as I'm trying to drum up donations to help me as I go preach the gospel of Jesus Christ to these college students all across the nation for the spring of 2025. Thank you guys for all your prayers, all your support, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Shalom, shalom.